Hi students, in this video I want to quickly go over the epidemiological transition model that you can open up. There's a link to it in our weekly folder in case it's hard for you to see it behind me here in this video. And also overlay it, you can see that it corresponds to the demographic transition model that we've just learned about. And the epidemiological transition model is referring to the types of diseases or types of things that would cause premature or early death that were prevalent in the world through the different stages of demographic transition. So you'll see on this transition model, this one that you're looking at, it uses the demographic transition framework, so stage 1 through 4. There is a fifth stage now that some depictions, some graphic depictions of this model include, because of course a lot of demographers and geographers do agree that there is a fifth stage of demographic transition that a lot of countries throughout the world are going through right now because the birth rate is so low and people, the death rate is matching the birth rate and exceeding the birth rate in a lot of places. Worldwide, so you see population start to decrease. Okay, so in these stages, you can think of the first one that says pre at the bottom of it as stage 1. And so this does exist in the world today in various places. There's a group of people in South America that come to mind called the Yanomami, and they are famous as an anthropological society, and they are horticulturalists, so they produce a little bit of food for themselves. I say a little bit. They produce plenty of food for themselves, but that kind of food production does not focus on surplus to engage in trade or economic growth with others. They produce what they need to survive on a regular basis, and they have done so, as far as we can tell, for 30,000 years or more. They don't have a written history. They have oral histories, and so as far as we can tell, they've been quite successful at their subsistence strategy, at their society, with their civilization, for at least that many years, thousands of years. But what they have to deal with is if there is some sort of infectious disease, parasites, funguses, these kinds of things that can kill you quickly and cause you discomfort in general, and life expectancy is low in this group because these things are not controlled or paid attention to in society. And so certainly throughout human history, before we had knowledge, before we had development in the scientific realm to know about these things, certainly this was how all of us lived and survived with very, we obviously were successful or we wouldn't be talking to each other now as far as birth rate goes, but you didn't really see the population increase, the natural increase rate that you can see in this gap right here, depicted in the white on this demographic transition model. The birth rate stayed high throughout stage 2, but the death rate went down because we got better at, human society, got better at knowing how to control diseases when they did hit. We got better at knowing how to eradicate them from different areas, and so our lifespan increased, and so the death rate went down. People were getting older, in other words. We still died, but we lived until a much older age before we died, and the birth rate was still very high. And so what you see in this stage is that pandemics and things that wiped out an entire population, these things we were learning how to control them, and so we were cutting down on the number of premature deaths that would happen. And so in stage 4, it really corresponds to stage 3 on the epidemiological transition model really corresponds to stage 4 on the demographic transition model, 3 and 4 on the demographic transition model, because we got so good at producing food that there's so much food available that often the surplus food supply makes us have diseases that we wouldn't otherwise have if our weight was under control or the kinds of fats that we ate were under control. or the additives and what am I trying to say? Hormones and food colors and all these kinds of things that are linked to health issues like cancer or obesity or diabetes, these kinds of things, we did to ourselves, in other words. And so we do have medical care that can keep us manageable if we have these conditions. It can keep us manageable into a ripe old age, but you still will see somebody with obesity caused diabetes die in their mid-60s when worldwide you have life expectancies in industrialized, wealthy nations such as the United States. You have lifespans up into the 90s and the hundreds. And so you'll have a lot of people die an early death because even with all the medical advancements, their diabetes isn't controlled. And it's mainly a lifestyle thing that has been caused by the overabundance and availability of calories and other additives too that you find in our food supply. And so in stage 4 on the epidemiological transition model, you will see that we have hybrid diseases that start to come into the foreground, meaning you've got regular mutations to maybe viruses or any other thing that can affect a large group of a population. And so you also see re-emerging, and some epidemiological transition models will show a 5th stage, and in the 5th stage you see re-emerging issues such as maybe malaria or other parasite-caused diseases, or you see things like cholera or Ebola or something like this re-emerge. Polio, it was something that really was terrifying to all of the people in the United States back in the 1950s, in the middle of the last century, but it was almost eradicated, and now you see a little bit more of it coming. Every once in a while you'll hear about polio has come to the forefront again. But we get really good at controlling these things, and then there's going to be a cycle, and they're going to come back occasionally, and we'll have to nip it in the bud and control it when it does. And so this is the epidemiological transition model. Please look at it in conjunction with the demographic transition model, because they go together and they are directly linked to the agricultural revolution. The stages of these are directly linked to the agricultural revolutions. We will discuss several, and the industrial revolutions. We're going to discuss a couple of those, the Green Revolution, and all of these different kinds of things that we're going to look at as transition points throughout population trends in our society and worldwide. Okay, so I hope you're enjoying these lessons, and I'll see you again in the next video for another. Bye.